Alright, now let us go to today's lesson. As I tell you, I don't want to spend much time on the lesson itself because I just go through with you the assignment. The lesson is actually quite straightforward. Today's lesson is just the part where I want to highlight to you over here. Yes, over here. After you determine the structured system analysis, you go down to this one, the 2B system, right? The 2B system, we're gonna talk about the system design, right? Let me see, structured system design. All right, you're gonna go on with the system structured design. This one, again, it is interrelated over here. Just highlight to you this flow chart over here, the PPNN, this thing, you will bring it down to here. All right, you're gonna bring it down to here. You're gonna show the improved process. All right, the improved process after you detect the gap, right? After you detect the gap over here, after you detect the gap, the risk, the issue, then you say, okay, how are you going to improve? Then you're going to draw the improved version over here. So let's say the original is like this. So maybe the new one going to be straight away like this. All right, so you're going to draw a new process flow, and over here you can leverage on different tools, which first of all is the BPMN over here, BPMN, the main. And to help you to design the system, you can use the system flowcharts. All right, system flowcharts. All right, over here is this one is the part where you're gonna start to think. All right, think on how the system flow. For example, first there is a login screen. Then number 2, it will be maybe a main dashboard, and so on, right? And you're going to use a system flowcharts over here to illustrate your process, okay? The process that you're going to incorporate inside your new improved process, okay? And over here, this is interesting. In this stage itself, all right, the structured system design, this stage itself, all right, you're going to determine 3 main things. One is this, most important of all is the flow. Number 2, okay, this is number 1, all right. Number 1 is determining the flow. Number 2 is the IPOCS, all right, input, process, output, control, and storage. This one is interrelated with number 3 and number 4, which is the database and the UI. user interface with the reports design. This one and this is interrelated. Okay, so basically this chapter covers all of this. All right, how you're gonna design your system. Okay, if you are still puzzled out and don't know what to do with the assignment, I hope this give you some idea. You need to really sit down and really think through and really between your group decide and evaluate. You need to critically suggest with each other. You need to propose idea on how to digitalize this farm into a smart farm, and how you're going to capture the data from the one end to another end, how you're going to transfer the data. And over here, this is where the design start to kick in, right? You're going to start with the flow, how you're going to manage the system in terms of step 1, step 2, step 3, what to go through. This one again later this one will be helpful. All right, this one will be linked to the documentation, right? How you're going to create the user manual. They are all interrelated. Again, at the end, the solution should match back to the problem. It's supposed to be a very big picture over here, and if you miss this, that's it. All right, you miss the whole picture of the process of this thing. And let me go down over here to IPOCS. Over here is, let me just see what's the time over here. I don't want to overshot. Okay, it's too good. IPOCS is about system input and output, the process and the control embedded with the storage. Over here is you're gonna decide this now. Over here the requirement, right? Where's the requirement? The requirement, system requirement over here. See this one. Let me just use a color. This one should go down and is supposed to link over to here. Okay, the system requirement collection is supposed to link to here. What you have decided over here just now, the missing gap that from the original existing flow, what information you should be input, what you want to input, what is the output, how the process going to be look like. All right, let me just go back over here, process flow. All right, and the control with the storage over here, they're supposed to jive, they're supposed to connect. It's supposed to be coherence and match together so that they are connected. Okay. It's for example, right? For example, let's go back to the farm manager with the farm clerk. All right, farm manager will order the material, right, from the supplier. Okay, because you're gonna manage, so you're gonna decide what to manage, what to order. And informations later, this farm manager will just tell the clerk, okay, these are the items and you're supposed to pay them. And it's not clear sometimes, there's a delay, supplier didn't send the items, or some item which is wrong, or they have already been communicated already between the manager, but the clerk is out of the communication. So we're gonna give them a solution. All right, we're gonna build a system so that they can manage their informations better in between the manager and the clerk. So in that sense, we're going to collect what kind of requirements over here. Functions is to ensure the record is recorded correctly, it's clear, it's communication between, if any changes is supposed to be communicated clearly. So what kind of input we're gonna have? We're gonna have the input of obviously the supplier, what kind of suppliers we're gonna have, the phone number, the date that ordered, maybe the proof of the order. We're gonna have the quantities, the amount, the promised price, because these people, they just call up and they will just give a random number and the proof. Then all this going to send to the system going to be sent to the process, and then gonna send up to this clerk, all right, the farm clerk. And if there is a changes, we allow the manager to do some edit or to do a modification, and then it will give an alert to the clerk, all right, the clerk. So basically there's a flow over there. We're gonna improve it by putting in a system over there. We're gonna show that a more efficient way for you to communicate, so that there's no there's no miscommunication between the manager and the clerk, right? And from there we're going to decide what to be input. As I tell you just now, the quantity, the order number, the price, and then the output is that, and then the control, we're going to give alert to the clerk, this kind of things, all right, that we're going to consider. And then the flow, all right, the flow, maybe we build apps or from the Google script. We're going to start with a login screen, and then the main dashboard, and then we're going to have the sales order, the purchase ordered from the manager, all right, then alert to the clerk, all right, something like that. And of course it all goes back to the database and the UI. Over here, if you remembered during your ACW482, you learn about the relational database management system. Am I correct? Let me just check RDMS. Yep, a relationship meaning management system. Yeah, relational database management system. If you forgot, I just put it over here in big. Simplify. Okay, in a big picture over here, we want to simplify the data being input. Okay, there you got the beautiful word, normalization. All right, there is where the normalization comes in. Multiple tables, you got a complex record. We don't want this, we want a simplified record, so that the data input is simplified. So in a sense, right, that we're going to create a database, all right, or a table over here, database / the table, to hold simplified data, right? as simple as that. All right, we don't want to have redundant, no redundant data should be input again. All right, so if you have over here, we're going to create maybe a table for the supplier name, then all the informations, for example, the address, phone number, whatever, all right, etc over here. Then the order should straight away the quantity and just select the quantity. All right, so if it's a proper breakdown table, you're gonna have the items over here, right? Items, you got the unit price, and the logic of this database is just, in terms of the normalization, is just to make sure that the table hold the most simplified data, so that when you input, you don't have to go and input like again. So over here, the order, in the order table, there should be a no for you to enter the supplier name over here, or and phone number. All right, the system, all right, the table, the database over here should be, all right, should be relational, so they should be connected. All right, so that when you don't have to put this anymore, right? When you select just the supplier name, the primary key, you will get all the informations regarding the supplier. And it just goes back to the concept of being simplified. And the relational just came in just to connect between tables. All right, the relational just came in just to connect between these tables, because if you don't connect this table in the database, each individual table over here makes no sense. All right, it will not you will not get a report back over here. Over here, it just link back to the output over here. All right, the table over here just link back to the output, and over here later we will see how it link to the report design, right? And this is the logic behind the database, right? You need to design the database so that when you want to enter the data, you don't have to have a redundant data being entered. So this is the importance of ensuring the database created accordingly. And let me see what we have over here. The time, let me just check the time. Okay, let me just end over here. Let me just end over here with this part where is the user interface. So what do we talk about user interface? Of course, we want the user interface to have a modern look. There are a few points, if you check the note that I give you, to have the good principle of having a good user interface, which is the clarity, consistency, efficiency, validation, feedback, and security. All right, just read from there. Anyway, out of all of that, it must be self. There's a keyword here, it must be self-intuitive. self-intuitive in terms of interface being self-intuitive, right? Let me just check, is this term correct? That self-intuitive space UI. Alright. This one. Let me just, no space for me to write over here. Just go up here. It's back. This one should be self-intuitive. For example, right, you buy a phone, you don't need someone to tell you, hey, go to here to on the phone, and don't have to tell you that the middle is the home button. All right, it's automatically, to go back, it's just swipe to the left. The gesture, when the gesture start be implement during the introduction of the system. Let me just go back to the words, right? Microsoft Word, when you go and open up a computer, a software, automatically the X on top there is closed. And these are all self-intuitive, right? You can just check, oh, this one I know already, right? This is where I go here, and this is where I go here. So your user interface should automatically have this thing. And it shouldn't confuse the user or make the user be finding around, how do I exit or go around here to find where should I input the order, right? Then that will be filled as the user interface. Okay, then we have the, over here I forgot to tell you the database. Apparently we are not using database structured over here. We are using Google Sheets, and Google Sheet just versus this database over here is basically Excel versus the database. And just go back to the logic behind the database and Excel, right? What is this? And I wonder what is this. Okay, these two things over here, Excel, the spreadsheet basically is more towards tables, more simplified, but this one is more structured in the way that the database, it manage the data accordingly. And over here the difference triggers go back to relational. You can build relations, but the sheet over here is a no. So because if it's a no over here, we need to use the Google Sheet code, all right, to create, to replicate, all right, to replicate this one, all right, to replicate this. Replicate, CATE, replicate this. And later, that's this week, the lab work, all right. I think next week, right? We'll see how to introduce the relational. How do we going to use this code over here to replicate this relational things over here. All right. This one we'll cover this, and then we'll cover the CRUD, CRUD, CRUD operations for the Google Apps script. All right, that will be the plan for the lab. Okay, that's it. All right, that's it. We have actually come to the end of this lecture. Very short lecture, I would say. I didn't go down deep into the point because I want you to focus on the assignment, and I want you to focus on, oh yeah, I forgot the keyword, right? So the keyword is the keyword is this one. All right, this is the keyword. Okay, that's it. Um,